The $10 Backyard Secret: How Snails Can Make You Rich Fast. Part 1: The Hidden Gold Living in Your Backyard. The first light of dawn spills across a quiet backyard. Drops of dew glisten on the edge of a small pond. In the still water, ripples spread slowly, tiny shells moving just beneath the surface. It's peaceful, almost meditative, but behind this calm scene lies something extraordinary: a hidden source of income. A new kind of backyard revolution. Most people believe you need acres of land, giant tractors, and endless resources to make real money from farming. But what if that belief is wrong? What if wealth could quietly grow right behind your house, with no smell, no noise, and no heavy labor, just clean water, patience, and a few remarkable creatures? Across Southeast Asia, ordinary families are discovering a quiet secret that's transforming lives and rewriting what it means to be a farmer. In tiny cement tanks, plastic-lined ponds, and even foam boxes the size of a laundry basket, they're raising what locals now call the black gold of freshwater. This is not a myth. It's a living, breathing example of how simple nature can become smart business. These small black snails, once overlooked and dismissed, are now helping thousands of families pay off debts, send their kids to school, and even retire early. Their secret? Turning something as simple as clean water and leftover vegetables into a profitable, sustainable farm right at home. No expensive feed, no complicated systems, just a bit of knowledge and consistency. In a world chasing speed and complexity, these slow-moving creatures are teaching a new truth: that real progress doesn't always rush forward. Sometimes, it grows quietly, beneath the surface. Imagine walking out to your backyard every morning and seeing not just a pond, but a living, thriving ecosystem that feeds your family, earns you money, and heals the planet. Because this isn't just about snails. It's about freedom. It's about transforming unused space into opportunity, and turning simplicity into strength. From rural Vietnam to suburban America, a silent green revolution is already underway. And it's not powered by machines or chemicals, but by ordinary people with a vision for something better. This is the story of how a humble snail is transforming lives, one backyard at a time. Part 2: The Background: Why Americans are Missing Out on a $10 Backyard Opportunity. Across the United States, millions of families are rethinking how food is grown. Rising grocery prices, unstable supply chains, and economic uncertainty have forced people to look closer to their own yards, garages, and patios for solutions. The dream of food independence isn't just for farmers anymore. It's for anyone who wants to feed their family, earn extra income, and live a more sustainable life. But here's the reality: while Americans are busy fighting over the next big investment trend, crypto, tech stocks, or solar startups, a quiet agricultural revolution has already taken root halfway across the world. And it's happening in backyards no bigger than a 2-car garage. In Vietnam, Thailand, and parts of the Philippines, small families are earning anywhere from $3 to $10 a year raising one of nature's simplest and most efficient animals, the black apple snail. These farmers aren't rich landowners or tech experts. They're everyday people who have turned small cement tanks into thriving microfarms, farms that not only produce high-quality protein but also provide a steady, low-risk income stream. So why haven't Americans caught on? The truth is, our idea of farming has been shaped by scale. We think, big farm, big profit, but modern challenges, land costs, weather extremes, and feed prices, have flipped that logic upside down. Today, the smaller and smarter your system, the higher your efficiency, and that's where snail farming quietly wins. Let's compare. Chickens require daily feeding, vaccines, and odor control. Tilapia demand constant water filtration, high-protein pellets, and electric aeration. But snails? They thrive on what your garden already provides: water spinach, kitchen scraps, and clean, still water. No smell, no noise, no waste. Even better, their reproduction rate is astonishing. A single breeding pair can produce thousands of baby snails each year, creating not just one source of income, but two. selling the meat and selling the baby snails. In Asia, black apple snail meat has become a culinary trend. It's clean, rich in protein, and beloved by health-conscious consumers. Restaurants and organic markets buy it fresh every week. And here's the twist: US chefs are starting to take notice too. As Americans seek exotic, sustainable, and high-value ingredients, this little snail could become the next backyard sensation, just like quail and tilapia did a decade ago. In Vietnam, this model has changed lives. Families once trapped in low-paying jobs now make steady incomes from home. Parents can work beside their children, producing food that's local, clean, and profitable. And in America, the same opportunity is waiting. You don't need a farm. You don't even need soil. Just water, a tank, and the will to begin. This isn't just about farming, it's about reclaiming control. It's about turning your backyard into a living bank account, powered by the simplest creature nature ever designed for success. Because the future of farming isn't somewhere out there, it's right behind your house. Part 3: The Models. 4 ways to start your mini snail farm. When most people picture a farm, they imagine rolling fields, noisy machinery, and endless work. But the new generation of backyard farmers is redefining that image: one tank, one tarp, one box at a time. The beauty of snail farming lies in its simplicity. You can start anywhere, with almost nothing. Whether you live in a suburban neighborhood, a city apartment, or a rural homestead, there's a model that fits your space, your budget, and your lifestyle. Let's explore the 4 easiest and most effective ways to launch your own mini snail farm. Each one proven successful by real families across Asia and ready to be adapted for your American backyard. Brick 1. The cement tank model: clean, professional, urban-friendly. If you want a long-term, low-maintenance setup that looks clean and modern, this is your go-to design. Imagine a solid, waist-high cement tank, something you can easily manage, even in a garage or beside your patio garden. Setup: build a small tank using bricks or concrete blocks, about 3 feet deep, 1 meter. The bottom should have a 4 to 6 inch, 10 to 15 centimeters, layer of soft mud or pond soil to create a natural substrate. Fill it with clean water, keeping the depth around 2 feet, 60 centimeters. Add plants like duckweed, water spinach, or lotus leaves to cover about 2/3 of the surface. These provide shade, oxygen, and natural food. Cost: roughly $200 to $400, depending on materials and size, for a 50 to 100 square featuring setup. Pros: professional appearance, ideal for home-based micro farms. Easy to manage temperature, lighting, and water quality. Lasts for years with minimal upkeep. Cons: higher initial investment, permanent structure, less flexibility if you move or expand. Best for urban homeowners, garage farmers, or those planning to scale up production gradually. Bucket 2. The tarp-lined pond, flexible and budget-friendly. Don't want to build with cement? Go flexible. The tarp-lined pond model is the DIY hero of backyard snail farming: inexpensive, quick to build, and perfect for small to medium spaces. Setup: create a simple frame using bamboo poles, PVC pipes, or wooden planks, around 1.5 meters, 5 feet deep. Line the inside with heavy-duty plastic tarp or pond liner. Fill halfway with clean water. Add natural mud at the bottom and plants for shading. Cost: only $100 to $200 for a 100 square featuring pond, one of the cheapest systems available. Pros: easy to install and relocate. Great for testing the waters, literally, before scaling up. Works well in both backyards and small farms. Cons: the tarp can tear if punctured by sharp objects or roots. Requires careful placement on flat, sturdy ground. Best for DIY enthusiasts, homesteaders, and anyone wanting a low-cost start. Package 3. The Foam Box Micro Farm, entry-level, ultra-compact. Don't have a yard at all? No problem. This model brings snail farming to balconies, rooftops, and even kitchen corners. Using large foam boxes, like those used for seafood transport, you can create a self-contained mini ecosystem that's perfect for learning or teaching kids about aquaculture. Setup. Get a foam box around 24 x 16 x 12 inches, 60 x 40 x 30 centimeters. Poke small holes on the sides for water drainage and air exchange. Add 2 to 3 inches, 5 to 8 centimeters, of soft soil or mud. Fill with just enough water to cover the bottom, and add small aquatic plants. Introduce 10 to 20 snails for testing. Cost: around $10 to $20 per box, nearly free if you recycle containers. Pros: perfect for beginners and children. Portable, lightweight, and fits anywhere. Excellent for observing snail behavior up close. Cons: limited capacity, best for learning. Not large-scale profit. Needs daily water monitoring in hot climates. Best for apartment dwellers, educators, and eco-conscious families who want to start small and grow later. Rice plant for the mini soil pond, the natural, low-maintenance classic. If you live in a rural or semi-rural area and already have access to a small patch of land or a natural pond, this model is ideal. The mini soil pond mimics nature itself. No tanks, no tarps, just clean, shallow water and fertile mud. Setup. Dig a small pond, 100-1.000 square feet, about 2 to 3 feet deep. Ensure a consistent water source, rainwater, a borehole, or a garden hose. Let the pond rest for a few days, allowing beneficial microbes to grow. Add aquatic plants for shade and water balance. Release snails gently in the evening. Cost: very low, mostly labor and a few tools. Usually under $100. Pros: natural conditions equals strong, healthy snails. Zero electricity required. Scalable, you can expand as profits grow. Cons: harder to control temperature and water quality. Vulnerable to predators like fish, frogs, or birds. Best for rural households, small homesteads, and anyone who loves traditional, low-tech farming. Each model comes with its own strengths, but all share a simple promise: you can start today, no matter your space or budget. Whether you have a small city balcony or an acre of open land, there's a version of snail farming that fits perfectly into your lifestyle. And once you take that first step, building your first tank, filling your first pond, or setting your first foam box, you'll realize how little it takes to turn unused space into steady income. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more giant farms, it needs smarter ones. And yours could be next. No matter your space, there's a snail farm model waiting to fit your backyard dream. Part 4: The Science: Creating the Perfect Snail Habitat. Behind every successful snail farm lies one essential secret: balance. You're not just raising snails, you're building a living, breathing ecosystem. And when that ecosystem thrives, your snails grow faster, reproduce better, and bring in more profit with almost no effort. The science of snail farming is simple but powerful: clean water, natural food, and a stable environment. Let's start with the foundation: water quality. Snails are incredibly sensitive to their surroundings. The difference between thriving and dying can come down to something as small as a few drops of chemical residue. That's why the first rule of snail farming is no chemicals. Ever. Whether you're filling your tank from a hose, a well, or rainwater storage, the water must be free from chlorine, pesticides, soap, and heavy metals. If you're using tap water, let it sit in an open container for at least 48 to 72 hours before filling your snail pond. This resting time allows chlorine and other volatile chemicals to evaporate. Next comes pH balance, a crucial but often ignored detail. Snails love slightly neutral to mildly alkaline water, ideally between 6.5 and 8.0 picohenries. You can test it easily using pH paper strips or an inexpensive digital tester. If the reading is too acidic, Sprinkle a small amount of agricultural lime, about 10 to 15 kilograms per 100 square meters of pond area, to neutralize the water. Agricultural lime, not industrial quicklime, gently raises the pH while also killing harmful bacteria and parasites. Once your water is ready, the next step is to bring it to life. In nature, snails thrive in shallow ponds full of plants, mud, and organic matter. These elements do more than look pretty. They create a mini ecosystem that keeps your water clean and full of oxygen. Adding duckweed, water spinach, lotus leaves, or water hyacinth isn't optional, it's essential. Here's why. Duckweed acts like a natural filter. It absorbs excess nitrogen and keeps the water crystal clear. Water spinach, known in Asia as rau muang, provides a renewable food source for snails while also giving them shelter. Lotus or water lilies spread wide leaves across the surface, creating shade that keeps the water cool during hot days. Floating plants also act as natural oxygenators, reducing the need for artificial aeration or pumps. Think of these plants as your natural filtration team, working 24/7 without electricity or maintenance costs. Next, focus on the bottom layer of your pond or tank. A soft layer of natural mud or pond soil, about 4 to 6 inches deep, helps snails burrow and rest. This mud also houses beneficial microorganisms that break down waste and recycle nutrients, keeping your system stable and self-sustaining. If you're building a new system, here's a quick, science-backed process to create the perfect snail ecosystem from scratch. 1. Clean and sterilize. Scrub your tank or pond to remove debris. Sprinkle agricultural lime evenly across the surface, 10 to 15 grams per square meter. Leave it to dry for 1 to 2 days under the sun. 2. Add soil. Spread a thin, even layer of soft pond soil or garden mud at the bottom. Avoid clay or sand that compacts too tightly. Snails prefer soft, slightly loose soil. 3. Fill gradually. Pour in clean, dechlorinated water until it's about 2 feet, 60 centimeters, deep. 4. Add plants. Introduce your duckweed, water spinach, and lotus plants. Let them grow for 2 to 3 days before adding snails. This gives the ecosystem time to stabilize. 5. Check oxygen. Observe small bubbles forming around plant roots. That's a sign your microecosystem is breathing naturally. Within just a few days, your pond becomes a self-regulating environment, clean, oxygenated, and full of life. It's like building a natural aquarium that feeds itself. And the best part? Once balanced, this habitat requires almost no daily intervention. The plants feed the snails. The snails fertilize the water. The microorganisms break down waste. Everything works in perfect harmony. You don't need fancy filters or expensive aeration systems. Nature already designed the perfect one. Your role is simply to guide it, not to control it. When your habitat is right, you'll see the signs immediately. Snails become active, crawling along the edges, feeding steadily, and laying bright pink egg clusters above the waterline. That's your living proof that your ecosystem is healthy and your farm is thriving. Creating the perfect snail habitat isn't about technology, it's about understanding balance. Clean water, living plants, and patient observation are your 3 greatest tools. Because when nature feels at home, profit becomes effortless. Build it once, and it will reward you for years to come. Part 5: Choosing your champions. How to pick the right snail breeders. In every great story of farming success, there's always one crucial moment, the choice of the first generation. The truth is, your entire snail farm's future depends on the quality of your breeders. Choose right, and your pond will thrive effortlessly for years. Choose wrong, and you'll spend your time fixing problems instead of counting profits. So how do you identify the champions, those perfect snails that can turn your backyard into a goldmine? It starts with your eyes and a bit of patience. When selecting breeding snails, look for the glow. A healthy black apple snail should have a shiny, smooth, dark shell, no cracks, chips, or dull patches. That sheen isn't just for looks, it's proof of good calcium levels and proper growth. The snail's foot, the soft body part, should be firm and responsive when touched. And the snail should move steadily once placed in water. If it doesn't react quickly, it may be weak or stressed, leave it behind. Next, size matters. The ideal breeder size is between 1 to 2 centimeters in diameter, large enough to handle environmental changes but still young and energetic enough to reproduce efficiently. Avoid overly large or old snails. They lay fewer eggs and grow sluggish over time. Now, let's talk about balance, specifically the breeding ratio. Snails are hermaphrodites, but they still need a partner to reproduce. The golden ratio is 1 male for every 2 females. Or in simpler terms, 25 to 30 pairs per square meter in your breeding pond. This ensures high fertilization rates without overcrowding. But how do you tell the difference between male and female? Here's a simple trick. Flip the snail gently and observe the area near the right shoulder, just below the shell. The male has a small white or gray reproductive organ, while the female does not. It takes a careful eye and some practice. But once you've done it a few times, it becomes second nature. Density also plays a big role in productivity. For commercial growing systems, here's a simple reference guide. Cement tanks or tarp-lined ponds, 80 to 100 snails per square meter for market-size farming. Breeding setups, 25 to 30 pairs per square meter, balanced ratio. Foam box microfarms, only 10 to 20 snails per box to avoid oxygen stress. Soil ponds can handle up to 200 to 300 snails per square meter, as long as vegetation and oxygen are sufficient. A common beginner mistake is to overstock, thinking more snails equals more profit. But overcrowding only leads to slower growth, fights for food, and water pollution. The secret is space. Snails thrive when they can roam freely, feed naturally, and lay eggs in peace. Once you've selected your breeder stock, introduce them slowly to your system. Don't dump them directly into water. Instead, place them on floating leaves, banana stems, or foam trays for a few hours. This allows them to adapt to the new pH and temperature without shock. After a few days, you'll start noticing magical signs of success. Snails gliding gracefully across your tank, feeding calmly, and most importantly, tiny clusters of pink eggs appearing above the waterline. Those eggs are your farm's first promise of profit. When they hatch, you'll see hundreds of baby snails, translucent, delicate, and full of potential, crawling out of their shells like living jewels. It's one of nature's most satisfying sights, the quiet beginning of an abundant cycle. Remember, snail farming isn't about speed. It's about patience, observation, and trust in natural rhythms. Every successful farmer knows that good breeding stock is like planting gold. It grows slowly, but surely. And here's the fun truth of this business. In snail farming, the slower they move, the faster your profit grows. Part 6: Feeding for Profit. Turning kitchen waste into gold. If water is the heart of your snail farm, then food is its lifeblood. But here's the twist. Feeding snails doesn't have to drain your wallet. In fact, the most profitable snail farmers in Asia and Africa don't buy feed at all. They use what most people throw away. With a little creativity, your daily kitchen waste and garden trimmings can become pure profit. Because in snail farming, nothing goes to waste, not even waste itself. Snails are gentle vegetarians. Their diet is built on simple, natural ingredients: soft greens, vegetable peels, rice bran, and even leftover fruits. They're the perfect example of circular farming, a system where your garden feeds your snails, and your snails feed your wallet. Start with what you already have. The best snail meals often come straight from your backyard or kitchen sink. Think of water spinach, taro leaves, sweet potato vines, pumpkin leaves, cassava leaves, all favorites. Duckweed and lettuce for hydration and easy digestion. Papaya skins, banana peels, watermelon rinds, natural treats packed with minerals. Rice bran, corn bran, and ground cassava meal for extra protein and energy. Avoid processed or chemical-treated foods. Snails are like tiny biosensors. What goes into their bodies directly affects their growth and the taste of their meat. The cleaner and greener the feed, the better the results. You don't need to overthink it. Just remember one golden rule: soft, fresh, and moist. Snails don't chew like mammals. They scrape surfaces with a radula, a tongue-like organ covered in microscopic teeth. That means they love foods that are tender and easy to nibble. To make your feeding system efficient, choose a fixed time every day, preferably once in the evening, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Why? Because snails are nocturnal. They eat the most when the sun goes down, and temperatures are cool. Evening feeding keeps them active through the night and reduces food waste during the heat of the day. A simple routine could look like this. 1. Collect kitchen scraps and garden greens in the morning. 2. Chop or shred them into smaller pieces for easy access. 3. Spread the feed evenly across the pond or tank surface, avoiding piling in one spot. 4. Remove leftovers the next morning to keep the water clean and prevent decay. Overfeeding is one of the most common mistakes new snail farmers make. More isn't better, it's deadly. Excess food breaks down in the water, releasing ammonia and attracting bacteria that cause foul odors, poor oxygen, and even snail death. Here's how to know when you've gone too far. The water starts looking cloudy or smells like rotten vegetables. Snails stop moving or climb up the sides, trying to escape bad water. Algae grows thick on the surface. When that happens, stop feeding for a day. Replace 30% of the water, and clean the pond's surface. Within hours, the ecosystem will rebalance. One way to prevent this problem entirely is to set up a compost to feed loop. It's a simple, sustainable system that turns your organic waste into nutrient-rich feed every week. Here's how it works. Collect vegetable scraps, rice bran, and leaves in a compost bin. Mix them with a bit of water and let them decompose naturally for 3 to 5 days. This fermentation process softens the material, enriches it with microbes, and boosts nutrition. Feed the mixture to your snails in small amounts. They'll devour it eagerly. This system doesn't just save money. It closes the loop, transforming waste into growth, and growth into income. Imagine earning $2, $5 a year from what your household used to throw away. That's not just sustainable, it's revolutionary. For commercial-scale farmers, feeding management can even be automated using simple tools like floating trays or feeding nets that hold leaves in place, preventing them from sinking and rotting. For small backyard setups, you can hand feed in under 10 minutes a day. And here's another hidden benefit: snails are incredible recyclers. Their waste, rich in nitrogen and organic matter, can be used to fertilize your vegetable garden. That means your snails not only feed your family financially but also nourish the very soil that grows your food. In many ways, snail farming mirrors the perfect natural cycle. Seedling plants feed snails right-pointing arrow snails produce waste right-pointing arrow herb waste feeds plants right-pointing arrow moneybag plants feed profits. This is what true regenerative farming looks like: simple, smart, and endlessly renewable. At the end of the day, feeding snails isn't about how much you give, it's about how wisely you manage. Every banana peel, every bunch of spinach, every handful of duckweed is more than just food, it's fuel for your financial freedom. So next time you're about to throw away vegetable scraps, think again. Because in the right hands, your hands, kitchen waste becomes gold. Part 7 Maintenance Masterclass. Clean water equals clean profit. If there's one golden rule in snail farming, it's this: clean water equals clean profit. You can have the best breeders, the best feed, and the perfect setup, but if your water turns dirty or stagnant, everything falls apart. Healthy snails depend on a healthy environment, and maintaining that environment is simpler than most people think. Your pond or tank is a living system. Over time, uneaten feed, snail waste, and decaying plants release organic matter into the water. If left unchecked, this buildup leads to cloudy water, foul smells, oxygen loss, and eventually, disease. That's why every successful farmer treats water maintenance like a weekly ritual, not a chore, but an investment. Let's start with the simplest step, the water change routine. Every 7 to 10 days, you should replace 20 to 30% of the total water volume. That's enough to refresh oxygen levels and flush out excess nutrients without shocking your snails. Never change all the water at once. Drastic shifts in temperature or pH can stress your snails and slow growth. If you're using a cement tank or tarp pond, use a small hose or submersible pump to drain water gently from the bottom. Where waste tends to settle, refill slowly with clean, dechlorinated water at the same temperature. This steady approach mimics nature's rhythm, like gentle rain renewing a pond after a long day of sun. Next comes one of the most effective secrets of modern aquaculture, beneficial bacteria. Also known as probiotics, these are good microbes that eat up the bad stuff, breaking down waste, neutralizing toxins like ammonia, and keeping the water balanced. You can buy aquaculture probiotics in most farming supply stores or online. Look for products containing Bacillus subtilis, Lactobacillus, or Nitrosomonas species. Dosage is simple. Add a small amount, as directed, once every 1 to 2 weeks. Especially after cleaning or replacing water. Within days, you'll notice clearer water, less odor, and happier, more active snails. But what about oxygen? Snails breathe through gills and a lung-like structure, meaning they need dissolved oxygen just like fish, especially in warm climates where oxygen levels drop quickly. The good news is you don't need a big electric aerator, a mini pump, solar-powered air stone, or even a small water fountain attachment can keep water gently moving and oxygenated. The goal isn't turbulence, it's gentle flow. Snails love calm water with light movement. If you're farming outdoors, plants like duckweed, lotus, or water spinach already help oxygenate and filter the water. But in shaded or indoor systems, a solar aerator is worth every penny. It's energy-free, eco-friendly, and ensures your snails never suffocate on still nights. Here's a tip passed down from real farmers across Vietnam and Thailand. A quick and reliable way to judge your water quality without expensive tools. If the water's clear enough to see your hand beneath the surface, your snails are smiling. It sounds simple, but it's surprisingly accurate. Clear water means good oxygen flow, balanced bacteria, and low organic waste, the 3 pillars of a profitable snail pond. Another visual clue is the behavior of your snails. If they're actively crawling, grazing on plants, or climbing the tank walls slowly, your ecosystem is in harmony. If they're floating on the surface or clustered in corners, something's off. Check oxygen levels or replace water immediately. Weekly maintenance checklist. Checkmark remove leftover feed every morning. Checkmark replace 20 to 30% of the water every 7 to 10 days. Checkmark add probiotics or beneficial bacteria bi-weekly. Checkmark clean the pond walls gently using a soft brush or sponge, never harsh chemicals. Checkmark trim overgrown plants to keep sunlight reaching the water surface. Monthly deep care. Once a month, remove half the snails to a temporary tank. Drain 70% of the water. And clean the bottom mud layer lightly. Refill with fresh water and return the snails after a few hours. This prevents toxic gas buildup and keeps your environment rejuvenated. Good water maintenance doesn't just keep snails alive, it multiplies your yield. Cleaner water means faster growth, fewer losses, and healthier breeding. And unlike fish, snails won't survive neglect, they'll quietly suffer until it's too late. But when your system is right, it runs almost on autopilot. You'll notice crystal clear water, natural algae growth on the walls, and strong, shiny snail shells, a visual confirmation that your micro-ecosystem is working beautifully. The magic of snail farming lies in balance. The water nourishes the snails nourish the ecosystem, and the ecosystem, in return, nourishes your income. Keep it clean, keep it steady, and remember, clear water isn't just beauty, it's money made visible. Part 8: The Harvest. How to turn patience into paychecks. Every snail farmer remembers their first harvest. The sound of water trickling at dawn, the soft glimmer of shells under the morning light, and the quiet excitement building inside as they lift the net. What started months ago as a small experiment, a few tanks, some mud, and a handful of snails, is now a living, moving reward for patience and care. Snail farming isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slowly and sustainably model. It teaches what modern life often forgets, that steady effort, when nurtured with patience, always pays off. After about 4 to 6 months, your snails will reach market size, typically around 25 to 30 snails per kilogram, each about 3 to 4 centimeters in shell diameter. That's when it's time to turn your calm, green pond into a quiet gold mine. But before diving into harvesting, it's important to understand the two approaches farmers use, each with its own purpose and rhythm. Cyclone 1. Partial harvest, the smart, sustainable way. Partial harvesting is like picking ripe fruit from a tree without cutting it down. Instead of draining your entire tank, you selectively collect only the largest, most mature snails while allowing the younger ones to continue growing. You can do this every few weeks, maintaining a continuous production cycle, meaning steady income, all year long. How to do it? In the early morning or late evening, when snails rise to the surface or crawl onto leaves, use a soft net or your hands to pick the mature ones. Avoid disturbing the mud or plants too much. Refill the water gently after each collection. This approach mimics natural foraging and keeps your ecosystem intact. Many successful small-scale farmers prefer partial harvesting because it reduces stress on the snails and provides a consistent stream of income, instead of waiting months for one big payout. Money Bag 2. Full harvest, the big payday. Full harvesting means collecting all snails in the tank at once. Perfect if you're selling wholesale to restaurants, markets, or distributors. How to do it? Drain most of the water, leaving just a few inches at the bottom. Carefully rake through the mud or vegetation to gather all snails. Rinse them gently in clean water to remove debris before weighing. If you plan to reuse the same tank, clean and reset it immediately after harvesting. Drain, line, dry, refill, and reintroduce new breeders. This ensures each cycle starts fresh and disease-free. While full harvests deliver a larger, one-time profit, they also require planning for your next batch. So alternating between partial and full harvest cycles can create the perfect balance of cash flow and sustainability. Sunrise, the best time to harvest. Timing matters. Snails are most active during dawn and dusk, when temperatures are cool and humidity is high. Harvesting during these hours ensures minimal stress, better survival, and easier collection since the snails naturally surface to feed or breathe. Never harvest under the blazing midday sun. It can dehydrate snails quickly and damage their delicate bodies. Red Heart, the moment every farmer waits for. Imagine it. You kneel by your pond at sunrise. The air smells of wet earth and fresh leaves. One by one, you scoop up glistening shells, heavy with promise. You can feel their weight in your palms, not just in kilograms, but in achievement. For many farmers, this moment is more than financial. It's emotional. It's the proof that patience still has value in a world that moves too fast. One farmer from Vietnam described it best. The first time I sold my snails, I didn't see money. I saw freedom. That freedom comes from self-reliance, from knowing your food, your effort, and your profit are all connected in a perfect loop of sustainability. And when the snails finally make their way to restaurants or local markets, the story continues. Your product isn't just another item on a menu. It's the symbol of resilience, of how ordinary people can take control of their lives using nothing but water, time, and care. So when you see those piles of glossy black shells ready for sale, remember, that's not just profit, that's proof you can take control of your own food future. From patience to paycheck, from backyard to business, this is how the quietest farm in the world can create the loudest success story. Part 9: Real-life success stories, from backyard to business. Every revolution starts with a few bold dreamers. People who look at a quiet pond or an empty corner of their backyard and see something more. Across Asia, hundreds of families have already proven that snail farming isn't just a hobby, it's a small, sustainable business that changes lives. And their stories are the proof that this backyard goldmine is real. Let's start with one of the simplest and most inspiring examples. In a small town in southern Vietnam, a couple named Min and Lan started with nothing more than a 10 square meter tarp pond, a few hundred baby snails, and about $400 in startup costs. They used recycled plastic sheets, bamboo poles for the frame, and rainwater collected from their roof. They didn't have expensive pumps or fancy gear, just dedication and consistency. For the first few months, Min fed the snails with leaves from his garden and vegetable scraps from the local market. Every evening, he'd walk out to the pond, scatter feed, and check the water. It became a calming ritual after his day job. After 5 months, their pond produced nearly 200 kilograms of snails, which sold for around $3 per kilogram, earning $600 in revenue, a clean $200 profit after expenses. But that wasn't the whole story. They also collected 2 kilograms of snail eggs and 10,000 baby snails, selling them to other new farmers for another $300 to $400. In total, their small pond earned them nearly $1 in one cycle, more than a month's salary in their region. Lan laughs when she tells their story. It started as a side project. Now, it pays for my daughter's college. Stories like theirs are everywhere. In Thailand, a retired teacher turned her flower garden into a snail paradise. Within a year, she was selling both snail meat and pink caviar, the colorful eggs prized in Asian cuisine and used in luxury spa products. Her small farm not only covered her living expenses but also became a local teaching site for young farmers. In the Philippines, a group of mothers started a cooperative snail farm beside their homes. They split the costs, shared knowledge, and marketed their products directly to local restaurants. Each member now earns an additional $150 to $200 per month, simply from what used to be idle backyard space. These are not isolated success stories. They're part of a quiet wave of change sweeping through rural and suburban communities. A movement built not on massive investment, but on micro-innovation and determination. What makes these stories remarkable is how accessible this model truly is. No high-tech equipment, no chemicals, no heavy labor, just clean water, plants, and a little patience. And the results are measurable, sustainable food, steady cash flow, and a sense of independence that no paycheck can match. Now imagine this model transplanted to the West. Across America, homeowners spend billions maintaining lawns, pools, and decorative ponds that produce nothing but bills. But what if even a fraction of those spaces could be transformed into small, income-generating ecosystems? A 10 square meters backyard pond could easily yield $600 to $1.000 per cycle, and with 2 or 3 cycles a year. That's up to $3 annually from an area smaller than a kid's bedroom. More importantly, this isn't just about money, it's about freedom and resilience. A backyard snail farm doesn't depend on global supply chains, fuel prices, or weather extremes. It depends only on your effort, your attention, and your imagination. As one farmer from Hanoi said proudly, standing by his tanks of shiny black snails, "The snails don't just feed my family, they've taught us that small can be powerful." That's the real beauty of this movement. It's not about turning people into farmers, it's about turning ordinary people into creators of abundance. If families in Vietnam can do it with minimal tools, imagine what American backyards, with their access to technology, clean water, and resources, could achieve. Because this revolution doesn't start with land. It starts with belief that a bucket of water, a handful of snails, and a bit of hope can grow into something life-changing. And once that belief takes root, a quiet backyard can become the birthplace of independence. Part 10 Advanced Tips. Scaling without stress. So, your first batch of snails is thriving. The water sparkles, and the profits are rolling in. Congratulations. But what comes next? How do you take this calm, steady operation and gently scale it up without turning it into chaos? The answer lies not in working harder, but in working smarter. This next stage of your journey is about efficiency, sustainability, and simplicity, because in snail farming, just like in nature, growth happens best when balance is maintained. Let's explore how to expand your backyard farm into a stable, long-term business without losing its soul. Cyclone 1. Combine breeding and commercial farming. Most beginners focus on one side, either growing snails for meat or raising baby snails for sale. But the real power lies in combining both models. Think of it as a closed-loop system. Your adult breeders produce eggs. The eggs become hatchlings, and part of those hatchlings grow into your next generation of breeders while the rest are raised for market. This cycle means you'll never have to buy new stock again. Your system becomes self-sufficient, and that's where your profits multiply. Here's a simple approach. Dedicate 30% of your setup to breeding tanks, lower density. More plants. Use the remaining 70% for grow-out tanks, higher density. Focused on meat production. Collect eggs every week, hatch them in foam boxes or small tanks, and transfer the strongest hatchlings after 2 to 3 weeks. This method ensures continuous production, a steady rhythm of new life, growth, and harvest, all flowing in perfect harmony. Herb 2. Integrate plants, the zero-waste feed loop. Snails and plants are the ultimate power couple. They feed each other, clean for each other, and balance the ecosystem naturally. By integrating aquatic and garden plants, you can create a zero-waste farm where every element serves a purpose. Plant fast-growing species like duckweed, water spinach, and sweet potato vines. They act as living filters, pulling waste nutrients out of the water while producing fresh, high-protein feed for your snails. Here's the magic loop. 1. Snails eat the plants. 2. Their waste fertilizes the water. 3. The fertilized water nourishes new plant growth. 4. The new plants feed the snails again. This cycle eliminates 90% of feed costs and keeps your water clean. And if you have space for a small garden bed, use the nutrient-rich snail waste as natural fertilizer. No chemicals, no expense, pure sustainability. Speech Balloon 3. Build your network, from backyard to community. Scaling smartly doesn't always mean building bigger tanks. Sometimes it means building stronger connections. Join or create local co-ops, Facebook groups, or online snail farming communities. These networks help in 3 critical ways. Knowledge sharing. Learn from others' successes and mistakes. Bulk buying power. Buy feed or materials in groups to cut costs. Stable buyers. Sell directly to local restaurants, organic food stores, or other farmers. A simple social media page showcasing your process, videos of feeding, harvesting, and clean tanks can attract loyal customers who love knowing where their food comes from. Transparency sells. If you're in a region where snail meat isn't yet popular, focus on education and curiosity. Offer samples to local chefs or farmers markets. Once people taste fresh, clean, farmed snails, soft, buttery, and rich in protein, demand will follow. Gear 4. Add small technology, efficiency without complexity. You don't need industrial equipment to make your operation smarter. Even a few affordable tools can make a huge difference in consistency and comfort. Here are some small but mighty upgrades. Mini water pump. Automates cleaning and water changes. Solar aerator. Keeps oxygen levels stable without electricity bills. pH meter. Helps you maintain the perfect 6.5 to 8.0 range for growth. Automatic LED timer. Keeps day-night cycles steady for breeding. Digital thermometer. Ensures your snails stay cozy between 77 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. These tools don't complicate your system, they simplify it. The goal is automation, not industrialization. Let the machines handle the boring tasks, so you can focus on what matters: observing, learning, and improving. Light bulb 5. Grow at the speed of nature. One of the biggest mistakes in scaling is rushing. Many farmers get excited by early success, double their size overnight, and then struggle to manage it. But snail farming doesn't reward speed, it rewards stability. Scale in small, calculated steps. Expand by 10 to 20% at a time. Test new methods in one tank before applying them to all. Track your survival rate, growth speed, and feed efficiency. These numbers are your compass. As your operation grows, consider diversifying income streams. Sell fresh snail meat to local restaurants. Baby snails or eggs to other farmers. Organic snail compost or fertilizer to gardeners. The beauty of snail farming is that it scales horizontally, not vertically. You don't need skyscrapers of tanks or endless acres, just smart, repeatable systems that multiply themselves. Scaling your snail farm isn't about turning it into a factory. It's about refining the art of simplicity, making small things work together in harmony. You're not just building a farm, you're building a sustainable business model that proves nature and profit can coexist beautifully. Because at the end of the day, success in snail farming isn't measured by how big your tanks are, it's measured by how balanced your ecosystem feels. And as every successful farmer eventually learns, small doesn't mean simple, it means smart. Part 11: The Economics. Breaking down the numbers. Let's talk about the part every aspiring farmer secretly wants to know: the money. Snail farming may look simple, but when managed right, it delivers one of the highest returns on investment, ROI, of any small-scale agricultural venture. Unlike chickens, pigs, or even tilapia, snails don't demand daily feeding costs, heating systems, or expensive infrastructure. Their strength lies in low input, high output, the sweet spot every smart entrepreneur dreams of. So how much does it actually take to start? A basic snail farm setup costs between $150 to $250 for a small 10 square meter pond or tank. This includes construction materials, tarp, bamboo, or cement blocks. Starter snails, 500 to 1.000 juveniles or 20 to 30 breeding pairs. Initial feed and vegetation. Lime powder, net covers, and basic tools. That's less than the price of a new smartphone, yet it can generate real, recurring income year after year. Now, let's break down what happens after setup. Money bag operating costs. The ongoing costs of snail farming are surprisingly light. Feed accounts for 30 to 40% of total expenses. But even that can be reduced dramatically if you grow your own greens or recycle kitchen waste. Snails thrive on duckweed, vegetable scraps, and garden leaves, meaning most of your feed can come from nature, not from a bag. Water maintenance is nearly free if you use rainwater or reuse household rinse water, as long as it's chemical-free. Occasional lime and probiotics are minor expenses. Electricity? Practically zero, unless you add a small solar aerator or pump for convenience. Your biggest investment will be time, just 10 to 15 minutes per day to check water, scatter feed, and harvest eggs. Upward trend profit example: small pond, big results. Let's take a real-world example that mirrors what many successful backyard farmers achieve. You start with a 10 square meter tarp-lined pond, stocked with 1.000 baby snails. With proper care, you'll achieve a 70% survival rate after 5 to 6 months. That means you'll harvest about 700 mature snails, roughly 200 kilograms in total weight. At a conservative market price of $14 per kilogram, your gross revenue hits around $2.800 per cycle. Now, subtract the operating costs, roughly $800 to $1.000, including feed, maintenance, and water care. That leaves you with a net profit of $1.800 per cycle, all from an investment under $250. That's a 200 to 250% ROI, achieved in less than half a year. And remember, that's just from meat sales. If you also sell eggs and baby snails to new farmers, you can easily double that number. Compare this to traditional livestock. Chickens. 30 to 50% ROI after 2 to 3 months. High feed cost. Disease risk. Tilapia, 60 to 100% ROI after 6 months. Expensive water management. Snails, 200 to 250% ROI after 5 months. Low feed cost. Almost zero risk. If you visualize it as a bar chart, snails versus chickens versus tilapia ROI, snails tower over the rest. They're the quiet outperformers of the farming world, proving that small can indeed be mighty. Compass why the numbers work. Snails reproduce fast, eat cheap, and waste nothing. Their feed conversion rate, how much food it takes to gain 1 kilogram, is far better than most animals. Because they're cold-blooded, they don't burn energy for heat, which means almost all their intake goes toward growth. Add to that the growing demand for organic, sustainable protein in restaurants and health-conscious markets, and you've got a business model built for the future. Every cycle strengthens your foundation. Your breeding stock grows, your system stabilizes, and your costs drop further. Within a year, a small farmer can expand from 1 pond to 3, turning a backyard hobby into a steady side income. Or even a full-time business. So while others chase volatile markets and risky ventures, your snails move slowly and profit quickly. Their pace may be calm, but their potential is unstoppable. Because in this business, every ripple in your pond is a reminder that smart farming isn't about size, it's about strategy. Part 12. The sustainability factor. Eco-friendly. Family-friendly farming. What makes snail farming truly special isn't just its profitability, it's how gentle, clean, and sustainable it is. While other livestock industries struggle with pollution, odor, and high emissions, snail farming quietly thrives as one of the most eco-friendly agricultural models on Earth. This is the kind of business where even the smallest family can make a real impact, not only on their wallet, but on the planet. Let's start with the simplest truth. Snails produce zero waste. Everything they eat, they use. Everything they excrete, nature recycles. They feed on organic matter, vegetable scraps, garden leaves, and biodegradable waste that would otherwise end up in landfills. Their manure, soft and rich in nutrients, becomes perfect compost for home gardens. The result? No smell, no pollution, no noise, no complaints from neighbors. You can raise them beside your kitchen, in your garage, or behind your house, and no one would ever guess there's a thriving micro-farm quietly producing food and income just a few feet away. That's why snail farming isn't just a business, it's a lifestyle of harmony. It represents the future of agriculture, where farming coexists beautifully with family life and urban living. Snail a farm for every generation. Unlike most forms of livestock farming, snail culture doesn't require physical strength, machinery, or harsh chemicals. That makes it perfect for everyone, from kids to grandparents. For children, it's an inspiring lesson in responsibility, patience, and biology. Watching the snails grow, reproduce, and sustain themselves teaches respect for nature and food systems. For seniors, it's therapeutic. The calm, repetitive rhythm of feeding and observing brings a sense of peace and purpose, and even a modest monthly income. For families, it's a shared project that connects generations, a green business that grows along with your home. And because the snails are quiet and odorless, the farm can blend seamlessly into daily life. You can feed them before breakfast, check them after dinner, and go to sleep knowing your little ecosystem is working while you rest. Seedling, a weapon against food waste. Every year, billions of tons of organic waste are discarded: fruit peels, stems, vegetable trimmings. Snail farming flips that problem into an opportunity. Instead of throwing away food scraps, you feed them to your snails. The snails convert that waste into valuable protein, which you can sell or eat. What was once garbage becomes gold, literally turning the cycle of waste into a cycle of wealth. And when combined with a small vegetable garden, your household can become almost self-sufficient in both protein and produce. Snails feed your plants with their manure, and your plants feed the snails in return. That's circular living at its finest. a complete ecosystem powered by patience. Globe, a new kind of farming for a new kind of world. Across the globe, people are searching for solutions to climate change, food insecurity, and urban crowding. The answer doesn't have to come from billion-dollar labs or vast industrial farms. Sometimes, it's as humble as a quiet snail in a backyard pond. Snail farming requires no deforestation, no synthetic feed, no antibiotics, and almost no water waste. It's the embodiment of green innovation through simplicity, a model that anyone can start. Anywhere. In countries like Vietnam and Thailand, families are already proving how small-scale systems can feed communities while protecting nature. Now, that same potential belongs to every homeowner, every homesteader, and every dreamer who believes that sustainability starts right at home. Because in a world of noise, rush, and endless consumption, the snail teaches us something profound, that slowing down can be the smartest, most rewarding move of all. In a world of noise and rush, the snail teaches us to slow down, and grow rich doing it. And that's not just poetic, it's practical. The slower you go, the more consistent your growth, the steadier your income, and the healthier your planet. Snail farming isn't just the future of small-scale agriculture. It's the symbol of a global shift toward farming that's sustainable, profitable, and deeply human. Part 13, Emotional Reflection, the Sound of Hope. Close your eyes for a moment and listen, not to the noise of traffic or the buzz of screens, but to something quieter, deeper, the soft bubbling of water, the faint rustle of leaves, the slow, deliberate movement of snails gliding beneath the surface. That sound, subtle, almost imperceptible, is the sound of hope. It's the sound of a new beginning for thousands of families who once thought farming required vast land, endless labor, or impossible investment. It's the sound of peace for those who traded stress and instability for balance and independence. And it's the sound of gratitude, the deep satisfaction that comes from working with nature, not against it. As sunlight dances across the pond, every shell gleams like a tiny pearl. Each one holds a story of resilience, of patience, of quiet success. There's something profoundly human about it, watching life grow slowly but surely, reflecting the rhythm we've forgotten in our modern rush. For farmers, these glistening shells aren't just livestock, they're symbols of renewal. Each ripple in the water carries the story of someone who decided to take control of their own destiny. A young couple in Vietnam building their first pond from scratch. A retiree in Florida turning his garden into a small eco-farm. A single mother in the Philippines feeding her children with what her backyard provides. Each story different, but the essence the same, freedom through simplicity. Because snail farming isn't just a way to earn money. It's a reminder of what real wealth means: clean food, calm work, and a connection to the earth beneath our feet. It teaches resilience, the kind that doesn't shout but endures quietly, day after day. It teaches patience, the kind that transforms slow growth into lasting abundance. And it brings peace, the kind that fills your mornings with purpose and your evenings with pride. When you watch the snails move, unhurried, unbothered, you realize they've mastered something humanity is still trying to relearn: how to live in harmony with time. Their journey mirrors ours. Each step forward may be small, but it's steady. Each cycle may take months, but it always ends in growth. And maybe that's the true secret behind the success of these backyard farms. They remind us that progress doesn't have to be loud, fast, or flashy. Sometimes, it's slow, humble, and deeply fulfilling. As the camera pans over the shimmering surface of the pond, a voice speaks softly, the essence of the farmer's alley itself. Every ripple carries a dream. Every snail, a small step toward freedom. That's what this movement is all about: smart, sustainable, soulful farming. A way of living where success grows naturally, quietly, beautifully, one backyard, one tank, one ripple at a time. Because true progress isn't measured in speed. It's measured in peace. From a simple tank of water to a thriving, living ecosystem, this is more than just a tutorial. It's a journey. You've seen how a few snails, A patch of soil and a bit of patience can grow into something extraordinary. You've learned how to set up a pond that works in harmony with nature. How to care for your snails with nothing more than clean water and kitchen scraps. How to harvest them with pride, turning slow growth into steady profit. And how each small action, feeding, cleaning, observing, builds towards something bigger: freedom, sustainability, and self-reliance. Across the world, families are already proving that you don't need acres of land or heavy machinery to build a farm. You just need belief and the courage to begin. In Vietnam, small farmers are paying for their children's education with backyard snails. In Thailand, retirees are turning ponds into peaceful, profitable sanctuaries. In the Philippines, mothers are feeding families and funding futures from their own gardens. If they can do it across the ocean, so can you. This is your invitation to take part in a quiet revolution that's changing how the world thinks about food, work, and wealth. A movement built not on size, but on smarts, where the future of farming fits right in your backyard. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for permission. Just start, even if it's a 4x4-foot pond. Even if it's a single foam box. Because every great success starts somewhere small. Maybe your goal is extra income. Maybe it's food security. Or maybe it's peace, the kind that comes from knowing you're building something real, sustainable, and yours. Whatever your reason, your revolution begins with a single decision: to turn green into gold. And your backyard into a story worth telling. Subscribe to the Farmer's Ally, where green turns to gold. And every backyard has a story. Let's grow smarter, together, one tank, one family, one ripple at a time. Because the future of farming doesn't belong to corporations. It belongs to people like you.